I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on the Spotlight Network, we're diving into an epic tale of resilience, power, and betrayal. Joining me is Eric Stephen Griesel, author of the gripping historical fiction novel, Celtic Betrayal. This multi-generational saga follows the Kerrigan family as they rise from Irish immigrants to a financial empire, only to face their greatest challenge yet. If you love stories of family, loyalty, and unimaginable twists, stay tuned for this fascinating conversation. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Bookside Press for helping us put him in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his amazing book. The links are below this interview. Eric, thank you so much for joining me here today on Spotlight.
Logan, thank you for the invitation. I'm glad to be here.
It's my pleasure. Great to have you on the show. Celtic Betrayal is a wonderful book. Let's give the folks at home an overview. Tell them what it's about a little bit, what they should expect from the story.
Well, it covers, as you've already identified, multiple generations that originally leave Ireland in the 1840s. And then come over to the United States. They left there because of some of the conditions there. Of course, the potato famine was the leading condition there. But they also, as most people know, the Irish were pretty almost imprisoned in a way by the British. And so that the British and the potato famine drove James Kerrigan out of Ireland. And unfortunately, he was by himself. His family didn't make it. And he traveled with a friend. And the two of them come over on a ship, and that's not without incident. He goes through a little bit of a situation there where he saves somebody's life, and then once he comes to the United States, he works his way across the country and starts the empire that's soon to be a colossal empire when it's eventually moved to New York, and then it continues to grow through several generations. And the generations, of course, experience a lot of hardship and problems, but in the end, the ultimate issue they face is the massive betrayal.
Yeah. It sounds very real. It feels very real. You've got people fleeing Ireland because of deplorable conditions there, coming to the United States to make good. Tell us a little bit about your inspiration for it. Is it based on real life experience, a family might know? What is it?
I wouldn't say it was based on a real life experience. I think it's probably the fact that I've done a lot of reading and listening to stories myself. And historically, I was always amazed at the things that happened back in that century, both in Europe and in Britain as well. And when I decided to write a story, I thought, well, who would be the most the best potential people to base the story on? And if you read a lot about what happened with the Irish, they were quite they were really driven out of their own country for a number of reasons. Of course, the potato famine again was one of the leading ones, but they had about 5 million people in the 1800s that left their country, and that was for a country that probably didn't have at the time more than about 15 million people. So it was a massive remigration of people from Ireland and into the United States, and a lot of the good things that happened in the country were on the backs of the Irish folks. And so when I was looking for somebody that would be a really good character and that would probably win a lot of votes for people who say, oh, I really love James the best. I wanted to create a character that would just endear himself to the readers, and I thought by putting him through the situation that I did, it was something that everybody loved. And as I got input from people that read the book, and I would always say to them, "Who was your favorite character?" Logan, without a hesitation, everybody voted for James. So I thought, well, boy, I sure hit that one right on the head. And then of course, one of the things I wanted to do and did in the book to keep James at the forefront was to go ahead and mix the characters. So I would start with the current day in the basically the 1990s, and then bounce back to 1800. So I always had James in the picture until he ultimately died of old age, and that's kind of why I wrote it that way.
Yeah. And it makes it very compelling, jumping back and forth in time and keeping that compelling character throughout the narrative. Is there any kind of message you're trying to relate to the audience, or is there a takeaway from the book?
Uh, I know, I understand a lot of authors probably have a reason they write something, but my reasoning for doing that was a little different. And I'll just show you briefly why it happened the way it did. I used to drive back and forth to work as an attorney, and I would listen to audio tapes on my car player, and after a number of times, and I don't know what that means really in number. I mean, I bet I listened to maybe 30 or 40 audio tapes. I finally said to myself, I think I can do this. And I just sat down and started to write, and it was not something that I was able to kind of immerse myself in because work called and a lot of litigation called, and I was not really given the opportunity to just stay at home and write the book. So the book really transpired over probably about a 15-year period. As I started with it, what I wanted to do was come up with a storyline that I thought would leave all the readers just hungry for more. They just couldn't wait to keep reading the book and didn't want to put it down. And so that was really the driver for me. There was no message that I was trying to impart to anybody. What I really wanted to do was just give them a great story and one that they would just love to read.
Yeah, well, you've done that. You've done that for sure. What do you think the elements are in a great story? Obviously, it's compelling characters, it's great settings, and your book has all of that. It also has this multi-generational epic feel about it. Kind of reminds me in a way of Succession, if you look at it from a cinematic point of view. What do you think the elements of a great story are?
It would seem to me that you have to have a really good underpinning of the story, and in other words, what's the driver? So I think there was a good driver in the sense that you had somebody that came from a place where things were tough for him. He lost his family, comes across the ocean. That wasn't an easy journey at the time, and then comes across the country, and he starts into building an empire. And that sounds really easy to say, but as you've identified, it's not an easy thing to write. And what you want to do is write credible stuff and have characters that people can align with. And I don't mean that by saying everybody needs to be on board with James. As far as I'm concerned, you could have a person there that's one of the villains in the story and still be hooting up a storm for him, and that's fine because the book is there for people to pull out what drives them. But I think from what I've seen and heard from the people that have read the book, and we're only talking about maybe about 100 people that I know personally or knew personally that read the book and gave me their feedback. I think they jumped on board with James. They love to see somebody who started with basically nothing and just all the strikes against him, and then worked his way gradually. And there was a time when James had to start being the tough guy that he turned out to be. And so I think there was an acceptance of people that would see him do these things and understand why he did it the way he did it, and feel like, well, I would have done the same thing if my family were put in jeopardy like that. So I tried to create somebody that would be really one. He would win the love and heart of the readers, but at the same time, when he did stuff that was possibly questionable, they wouldn't abandon him and say, "Oh, I liked him until he did this." And that was what I was trying to get at, is find that person that would have that overriding, compelling saga of what he did in the book, that the people wouldn't abandon him. They'd still love him.
Absolutely. Desperate times call for desperate measures, and I think people are well acquainted with that. Tell us a little bit about your writing career. Are you going to follow up this novel? Are you planning a sequel? Tell us a little bit about your plans.
Well, the goal right now, Logan, is I'm about maybe 25% of the way into a second book, and because of what I've written in the first book, I've decided to kind of steal a character out of the first book, and write about that character in the second book. So the second book is called The Assassin. And I'm not going to give away any secrets about the book, because for those that haven't read it, I don't want to go ahead and spill the beans. But I've taken a person in Celtic Betrayal, and I'm building a story around this individual. And there's going to be references in the second book to things that happened in the first book, but they're just fleeting. I'm not trying to do a lean-to on Celtic Betrayal. I'm just trying to do a brief nexus to connect the two. And we're going to run with that character all the way through. And it's not going to be the kind of lengthy book that Celtic Betrayal is. It's probably going to be a more of a normal 350-page book type thing. And I think it's going to be different, because we're not going to cover in that book all the historical things that we covered in Celtic Betrayal. But I think that the way the character behaves, and I think people will like the character. Of course, it's hard for people sometimes to like a character that's maybe a paid assassin, but I make her likable in the book, and it's up to people, to make their own decision. But we're going to start with that and see, and then if that does well and people still like my writing, then I'll come back and try to do a second piece to Celtic Betrayal.
Sounds great. Sounds intriguing. Can't wait for Assassin to come out. It sounds like a wonderful book. Celtic Betrayal is indeed a wonderful book. It is a multi-generational saga that follows the Kerrigan family as they rise from Irish immigrants to a financial empire, only to face their greatest challenge. Yet it is a true page turner. You will absolutely enjoy it, especially if you love stories that involve love of family, loyalty, and unimaginable twists. Eric, thank you so much for joining me here today on Spotlight.
Well, Logan, I appreciate the invitation. Thank you so very much for inviting me.
Oh, you're very welcome. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.